Hey, what's going on, guys? At UFC 297 Media Day, Sean Strickland had a very interesting media scrum, as well as Dricus Du Plessis. But Sean Strickland had an interaction with a media member, which I really thought was disgusting. And because of this interaction and it kind of getting posted everywhere and everyone's talking about it, and we'll touch on it in this video, a lot of things that were said in both of these scrums were kind of skimmed over a bit. In particular, Dricus Du Plessis scrum discussing some messages that Sean Strickland sent him. Because Dricus Du Plessis, he may very well be the best trash talker in the UFC, and he brutally exposed Sean Strickland during the UFC 297 Media Day. And it's something that I genuinely don't think Sean Strickland can ever recover from. I don't even care if he brutally chins Dricus in the first round, which I don't believe he will. But what Dricus had to say about Sean Strickland messaging him was just, it was baffling to me. I could not believe what I was hearing, and literally nobody is talking about it. But we're going to get to that in a little bit, because I want to look through kind of the trail of Sean Strickland media over the last couple days. And I've already done a video on like the backstory of the trash talk between Strickland and Dricus. I'll link those videos down in the description if you want to go check those out first. But I want to start off by looking at an interview that Strickland did with ESPN. And I'm only going to show you a few seconds of this, and we're going to take a look at Sean Strickland's media day as well as Dricus' media day in a second. But I want to take a look at this because something really stuck out to me about Sean Strickland's 21-minute interview with ESPN. Now, I'm going to show to you here, I'm going to show you two clips from this video, and I'll link every video that I have in this video down in the description as well. I want to play for you literally 9 seconds of this 21-minute interview or 20-minute interview. This is the only portion where Sean Strickland says anything bad about Dricus Du Plessis, and we're going to get to that here in a little bit, why I'm playing this for you. But let's take a listen.
He's tough. He fights hard, you know. I mean, his coach always keeps him hard. He keeps him ready. So
That's it. That's all we got for a 20-minute interview. That's all Strickland is saying about Dricus Du Plessis. That is crazy to me. Strickland has been known for going after opponent, you know, being a troll online, nonstop, pushing the envelope and taking it too far. In 20 minutes, that's all he had to say about Dricus. And I thought that was awfully suspicious. And I was like, what is going on here? And typically I don't watch these interviews, but recently with all this stuff going on, I've been paying more attention to it so I can make content like this about it, especially exposing someone like Sean Strickland, who it seems a lot of the MMA community doesn't want to expose him for his blatant hypocrisy. That is all we really had in terms of him talking about Dricus Du Plessis. And then one other clip where he talks about, I'm going to kill Dricus Du Plessis, which we'll take a look at another clip that from his podcast he does with Chris Curtis as well. But this is the only other real kind of moment where he even remotely says anything kind of bad about Dricus Du Plessis, which really isn't bad here.
With him, we'll call it, in December in the stands. What was it about his comments?
I really think the UFC set that one up, by the way.
What?
By the way, I was saying that. I don't believe this was 100% planned out, but it wouldn't shock me if Dana sat them next to each other because he knew something like this would happen, and then he could use it to promote an abysmal UFC 297, a garbage UFC 297. So I'm glad Strickland's calling that out as well. I don't think he was in on it, but I think there's a very good chance the UFC knew this was going to happen and did it. I'm glad Strickland called that out. But here he goes into talking about Dricus.
I mean, to your credit, Dana White said they should have never been sitting there and that was his fault for the seating chart.
You know, he's actually like, I actually generally like Dricus, but you just like, here's the thing, man. You know who I am. Like, I will kill you. Like I love my life. I don't want to go to prison. I don't want to die. But like, I'm the one guy who's okay throwing away my life.
So there you go. Strickland saying, I will kill you. And this is a common theme. And he also said this in his podcast with Chris Curtis. Now, this is like a 15-minute segment. I don't know if the full podcast is coming out or what. But this is where he actually talks about it as well. I actually got to skip ahead here. He talks about the same thing. He says, but in this one, he says, I messaged him. And that we need that context for later on in the video. But this is him also talking about Dricus Du Plessis, saying, you know, oh, I will kill him. Let's listen.
And I was like, Dricus, I mean, because I like the guy. Me and him are going to have a fucking war. We're going to have a fucking death match. Like, there's no other way that ends. You know, someone's getting knocked the fuck out.
He's going to kiss you.
He might try to grab my But, you know, I mean, at the end of the day,
That's his coach. That's his coach.
worst things could happen, right? Fuck. So I actually sent him a message, and
I sent him a message. He messaged Dricus Du Plessis. And there's a narrative that Sean Strickland tries to set here, and also kind of in the Megan O'Leary interview, that we're going to expose is basically just kind of a lie. I mean, just misrepresentation, but we'll talk about that later.
I was like, dude, listen, Dricus, we're going to go try to murder each other. But if you bring that shit up again, I will stab you.
Yeah, I remember
Press conference, weigh in. You bring that, like, I just told Dricus. Like,
you know he's going to bring it up.
No, he was cool about it. He was.
So Dricus was cool about it. He messaged him, say, don't ever bring that up again. If you don't know, Dricus said, basically, I'm going to beat you like your father did. And Strickland got all upset. And now he's messaging Dricus. He's sliding into Dricus's DMs. And the way Strickland's making it seem is, if you talk about it again, I will stab you. That's what Strickland is kind of making it out to be, which is partially true, but it's only half the truth.
It was like, he was cool. But I mean, again, I'm not telling you I don't want to fight you, Dricus. I'm not saying you're not a good fighter. I'm just saying that that's a line that when crossed, it transcends fighting to, like, if I have, like, I'm going to, if I go to Canada and you bring that up, well, guess what? I'm going to go to jail. They're going to deport me. And we spent 8 weeks of training doing for no reason.
Here he is saying, Dricus, if you're too mean to me, I will get our fight canceled, because that's the only thing Dricus cares about. He just wants to get to the fight and fight Sean Strickland and attempt to become champion and achieve his dream. Strickland's saying, if you bring that up again, I'm going to cause problems and potentially get the fight canceled. Strickland admits it here. And again, I just think it's, and I know I've covered this in other videos, I just think it's incredibly hypocritical for someone like Sean Strickland to try to set the boundaries on what trash talk can be. This is a guy that has harassed other fighters' wives. This is a guy who has talked crap about other fighters reflecting on moments where they thought about taking their own lives. This is a guy who makes fun of people who die in car accidents. That is who Sean Strickland is. And now he's saying, this is just a line you can't cross. And then literally, I mean, this is like 30 seconds later, he basically says, oh, yeah, I can joke about it, but just Dricus can't in general. Listen to what he says here. I couldn't believe, I was like, am I even hearing this right? I had to listen to it twice.
But like joking about, here's the thing.
Point.
Here's the thing about like that severe trauma. You can joke about it. I could laugh about it. You know, I could joke about someone being molested. Oh, yeah. You know, I could joke about someone being abused. And it's funny, but the moment like you acknowledge it,
it becomes real, yeah.
And you pick at it. But you know what?
So there he goes on another diatribe here, but he says he can joke about it. He can joke about someone being abused. He can joke about someone being something else. But Dricus can't? Dricus can't joke about it? Well, Dricus wasn't joking about it. He made that very clear in his media scrum, which we'll take a look at in a second. But then this last clip from the podcast before we actually get into the media scrums, I mean, this just goes to show Dricus is actually in Strickland's head, and I just couldn't believe. I mean, the stuff that Dricus said at the media day was just so real and so factual and so calm. I've never seen one of these fighters in the UFC body somebody so badly, and I can't wait to look at what Dricus had to say, referring to this whole DM situation. It's just crazy. But here's Strickland saying, oh, no, he's not in my head. But listen, then he says, oh, he's in my head.
It makes me laugh, dude. After that happened, everyone's like, "Oh man, like Dricus is in Sean's head." I'm like, you guys don't understand. I want to kill everybody. There is no in my head. The only thing is, it made it harder for me to resist that urge. But
so he's in your head. He's got you emotional. That's what he literally just said. Basically, he's trying to resist the urge harder because Dricus talked bad about him. Now, one other clip I want to show you, and hopefully I don't get copyright for this. I want to show you a clip from an Embedded, which is going to kind of, I just want to add this context for later. And this honestly made some people not really, enjoy maybe UFC 297, the main event, as much. But this is a clip from Embedded. So this is a recent clip. And we're just going to take a look at like 5 seconds of it because the UFC will probably copyright claim this video. But this is Dricus running into Strickland, I guess, in a hotel lobby.
That's all good. Hey, thanks again for being understanding.
Of course, man. Enjoy.
Shakes his hand and says, thanks again for being understanding. Thank you again, Dricus, for being understanding. And this all comes back to those Instagram DMs. Now let's get to Sean Strickland's media day. I mean, this is so hypocritical. I could not even, he again just acts so morally superior and adds all these qualifiers to trash talk and thinks that he gets to be the moral compass here. Let's listen. First off, he's going to talk about Dricus crossing the line. Let's listen to this.
No, I just simply said, man, that that's a line
Specifically, he was asked about the messages, I think, here. Is I think what he's answering right here.
that you probably, I prefer that we didn't go there. And you guys, I shit on everybody. I mean,
He harasses people's wives. He talks about people or fighters that died in car accidents. He's made fun of, countless things where he's crossed the line. But when a bully when a bully gets stood up to, and that's exactly what Dricus did, stand up to a bully, all of a sudden, we got to draw the line here. We got to police Dricus' speech. Otherwise, I'm going to get the fight canceled by doing something crazy. That's essentially what the only thing Strickland has over Dricus' head is I'm going to get the fight canceled is essentially what Sean's saying.
I make fun of your gay little pirate earring. I guess I can say gay, right? That's different. Is that more on the
I say it's on the cusp.
the cusp? Yeah. So I can make fun of your gay little pirate ear, but so I go hard, man. I made fun of fucking Sean O'Malley's wife.
So there he goes, admitting that he made fun of Sean O'Malley's wife, but that's not crossing the line because, oh, well, when you look at this YouTube video and Sean O'Malley said this publicly and this and that, and when you add these qualifiers, you can literally justify anything. At the end of the day, Strickland crosses the line. He's a habitual line stepper. And then when someone does it to him just for 30 seconds a month and a half ago or 5 weeks ago, all of a sudden he's got to clutch his pearls about it. But let's listen.
Getting fucked by his buddy. I made fun of fucking the cucky and Gary, but the difference is, and I was just telling DC this,
oh, here's the difference. Here's the big difference, guys. Here's the qualifier of, this is what makes it right, talking about someone's family.
dude, you went on a podcast and you joked about calling a homie to fuck your wife.
So there you go. Because Sean O'Malley has talked about his relationship on a podcast, that means it's fair game. That's what Strickland said. That's not what I've said. That is what Strickland said. Well, Strickland has talked about his relationship with his dad on different podcasts. He was on Theo Von 2-3 weeks ago crying his eyes out. He's also been on Brendan Schaub, Food Truck Diaries, and Dricus actually references this later in the video I'm going to show you, where he's joking about kids being abused by their fathers and that they should be. He advocates for it. So if that's the case, if you talk about anything in public, that means anyone else can use it against you. So that means essentially that Dricus should be able to do the same, right?
I didn't go I didn't go make fun of anything that you didn't joke about.
I didn't go and make fun of anything that you didn't joke about. Well, then everything with you is fair game too. You just said, literally, I just showed you in his podcast with Curtis, him saying, yeah, I could joke about someone's abuse. No problem. It's only when it affects him. It's only when it affects him. He goes after O'Malley's wife. He goes about Ian Machado Gary's wife in this as well. We'll take a look at that next. Let me skip ahead to right about here, where he talks about Ian Gary. And again, I'm taking the moral high ground. This is so wrong.
You went out there and you put your wife front and fucking center. You put her front and fucking center.
AKA, I've had my wife on my social media. She attends different events with me and she's there cheering me on. Oh, God forbid he does that.
You made her design a shirt.
She was there having her input in a shirt that I'll never understand this, and I understand that I'm in the minority. More people are angry about Ian Machado Gary wearing a shirt of a mugshot of somebody who got a DUI. They're more mad about somebody wearing a shirt than they are about that fighter getting a DUI, which makes no sense to me. But I understand that I'm in the minority. But either way, why does Strickland get the police trash talk? Let's keep listening.
You made her fucking hold the baby while you wear it, laugh.
You made her hold the baby while you wear it. AKA, my wife went out in public with me. I think he was attending a fight or a press conference or something. And my wife was with me while I wore the shirt. So that's fair game to harass his wife on social media for weeks on end. But then you cry and want to cancel Dricus Du Plessis because he's crossed the line.
You put her front and center. You are a fucking cuck. So it's like, I go hard on everybody. Sometimes some shit gets on me. I'm fully aware of that.
Basically, I'm a hypocrite and I know it, is what he's saying there. That's essentially what he's saying there because, people go hard on me. Like, what are you even saying? Oh, you put her front and center. That means you're a cuck. Oh, okay. That's a great insult, Strickland. I mean, that's really good. But, I'll continue to talk about his wife. I'll continue to talk about his marriage and his relationship. And he does throughout this. We're not going to look at all that. This video would be way too long if we exposed every little piece of trash talk that he had about other people's families and wives. But this next clip is just one last piece about Ian Machado Gary, which I just think is hilarious when you add it to context with what we're about to look at next.
But yeah, no, Ian Gary, he's a weak man. He's a fucking weak man. And this is what I try to tell people, man. You meet these fucking cunts all day long and they smile and they shake your fucking hand.
He's just a weak man. They'll just smile and shake your hand. Yeah, that actually sounds very familiar to me. Does that sound familiar to anyone else? They'll smile and shake your hand. Yeah, Strickland, I've seen that. This dude's acting like Ian Gary. I mean, you can dislike Ian Gary, but this guy's just habitually going after Ian Machado Gary for one reason and one reason only. It garners him attention, and he enjoys doing it. He enjoys it. He enjoys it when he's the bully. But when someone stands up to him, he's got to cry foul. Now, this last part, and I know this is going to be controversial, and I wasn't even going to include it in this video that much because I didn't think it was really that pertinent to the video, but I know it's going to be kind of a controversial topic, and I know nobody's actually going to be willing to kind of really say their true feelings on this, but this is a reporter. I forgot what his name is. I think it's Alexander or something like that. He works for MMA Fighting, asking Sean Strickland. I couldn't make out the full question because Sean Strickland then begins just to shout over him, but ask him basically, do you stand by your comments that you said like a year or two ago, if you had a son who turned out to be gay, that you would beat him? Sean Strickland either being serious about child abuse or joking about child abuse, very pertinent to the press conference. And this is Sean Strickland's reaction. I think I actually have the question in here as well. We'll take a listen.
We've got a pretty supportive gay and lesbian community in this city. I did want to ask you about something you wrote a couple of years ago. You said, if I had a gay son, I would think I'd...
Oh, look, another, I'm saying in the swamp. You got...
Can't even let him finish the question. Just has to start insulting him and immediately shouting over him. Can't let him finish the question and just answer. Just can't let him finish the question and answer. But let's continue listening.
Guys, a swamp.
You become a champion, you become a star, and some would say...
Let me ask you something. Are you gay?
Have you had the chance to interact with a more diverse...
Let me know. Are you gay?
Listen, this is a common theme that I've seen. If you don't support people openly using homophobic slurs or hate speech of any kind, if you say, look, I don't think that's really right, advocating for that in a public setting at the bare minimum, all of a sudden that means you're homosexual. That's what that means. Strickland is so anti-homosexual, I'm beginning to think he might be homosexual. We'll talk about it in a second. Let's finish watching this.
Can I get an answer?
Well, no, I'm asking, this is the part of, are you a gay man?
I'm an ally of the community.
Okay. If you had a son and he was like, you had a son, he was gay, you'd be like, oh man, you don't want a grandkid?
No problem with it.
So this guy says he would love his son unconditionally. That's not the words he used, but he said, I would have no problem with it. It is what it is, basically. Strickland was on a podcast 2 to 3 weeks ago crying and whining. He's threatening to kill Dricus because his dad did not love him enough. And now this guy says, look, regardless of what my son's sexuality would be, I would love him regardless. And now Strickland really goes off on him.
Oh, man, well, dude, you're a weak fucking man, dude. You're part of the fucking problem. You elected Justin Trudeau. Like, when he sees the bank accounts, like, you're just fucking pathetic.
I'm not even sure what all this is about. I know Justin Trudeau is the political leader, I guess, in Canada, but I don't necessarily know. I can't even speak to all that. But again, it's just attacks because he can't bear to answer the question, do you still believe what you said a couple years ago?
And the fact that you have no fucking backbone and has he shut down your fucking country and seized bank accounts? You ask me some stupid shit like that, go fuck yourself. Move the fuck on, man. Fuck.
And this continues more and more, but we don't need to look at the rest of it. Attacks a media member just simply for asking a question. And I know people are going to say, well, we don't want to talk about this and we don't need to hear about, I guess politics. People always say it's politics this, politics that. I am the first person to say I get sick and tired of everybody injecting political things into everything. But why is it only okay when it's beliefs that you support or you believe in? It's okay then. All Sean Strickland does is inject politics into everything. When he's not ranting and raving about, just throwing out weird trash talk and harassing people's wives. But regardless, and I know a lot of people are trashing this media member, we need more media members like this. And I'm not saying, necessarily asking about homosexuals, like that's specifically it. The point is, we should have media members who are willing to ask questions that make fighters or UFC president Dana White feel uncomfortable. Why? Who wants to watch a media scrum where someone says, oh yeah, how were the vibes? Oh, how are you going to win on Saturday? So shout out to that guy for being willing to be hated on and to be verbally attacked by Sean Strickland, who could have just said, oh, I no longer stand by that. I don't stand by that anymore. I didn't mean it like that. I was joking. But instead, Sean Strickland, the man who was crying that his daddy didn't love him enough, is now calling somebody a weak man because he says he would love his son regardless. Now let's move over to Dricus Du Plessis media day, because this guy, he may very well be the best trash talker in the UFC. I'm going to be honest. May very well be the best trash talker in the UFC. And people asked him kind of a tough question. I mean, I don't think it was that tough of a question, but do you regret making fun of Sean Strickland's child abuse, essentially? And Dricus Du Plessis, I'm telling you, he's the best trash talker in the UFC over anyone. Over anyone. Let's listen.
One on the mic. But do you regret making comments about somebody's abusive background? Is that something that you think should be discussed?
Well, he discussed it. So, if you're gonna go out there and say, "Hey kids, you need to be abused more. Hey kids, you need drunken rage, abused beatings by your parents," like
he said that. It's clipped in my other video. I tweeted it out a week ago. Sean Strickland has already advocated that he implores more parents, more fathers to abuse their children. It's either a joke or it's not a joke. Either way, it's equally horrible in my opinion. And he's allowed to joke about it, but when Dricus speaks about it, it's not allowed. It's not allowed at all.
I got when I grew up. Then, I mean, that's you putting it out there. That's you joking about it. I wasn't joking about it. I am going to beat the shit out of Sean Strickland.
Oh my God. I'm not joking about it. I'm being serious. I'm going to beat the shit out of Sean Strickland. That was hilarious. So I love this response from Dricus. He couldn't handle this any better, and this press conference any better. And I can't wait till he gets into the DMs.
That wasn't a joke. So he made those comments. He made it public, and he was making a joke of it, not me. Do I think it's good? No, it's terrible what happened to him. It's terrible what happened to him, but now he felt. I was completely respectful towards Sean Strickland that whole press conference, and you can go watch it back, and you'll see. Even when he threw a couple of jabs, I just let it slide. And then when he tried to get the crowd up and going.
I said this before. I said this immediately after the event. Du Plessis tried to be respectful for the entire time, and Strickland repeatedly insulted him, insulted his coach, and then finally Du Plessis fired back in the last 30 seconds of the press conference, and it broke Strickland badly. And that's what Dricus is just pointing out perfectly here. Perfectly.
The only way he knows how to by saying offensive stuff and being outrageous and, just screaming over everybody. And
basically, Sean Strickland only knows how to trash talk by pretending like he's in a 2008 Xbox Live lobby. Essentially, that's what Dricus is saying here.
He tried to bully me, and I wasn't going to let that slide. And that's what he did. That's what when he saw he couldn't get the crowd behind him like he usually does, in terms of, being funny, because we were respectful towards each other, he tried to be disrespectful. And I showed him what it feels like if you get some of your own medicine. So
I absolutely love this. This is honestly making Dricus one of my favorite fighters. I've said this forever. People are like, Joey, you're hypocritical because you said people shouldn't joke about this. At some point when you go around acting like a maniac and habitually stepping over the line and insulting people and being offensive, eventually someone's going to match that energy. They're going to be like, you know what? I'm not going to let him bully me. Don't let him bully your son. They're not going to let him. Dricus is not going to let him bully him. And that's exactly what he did. And Dricus did the bullying for a change. And Strickland crumbled into a little ball. I mean, Dricus might as well gave him a wedgie. Might as well gave him a wedgie. And it gets even worse. I mean, this press conference, I mean, it's a master class by Dricus. I want to know, who's he taking notes from? Who is he taking notes from? Because this was a master class by Dricus, and it only gets worse for Strickland. Listen to this.
Exactly the same, but there's no need to say it again.
Someone's asking him, basically, are you going to lay off of it now? Are you going to lay off they kind of mentioned the messages, which we're going to get into in a second. And basically, are you going to mention it anymore? And basically, Dricus is like, I already won the press conference from a week ago, and kind of I'm going to lay off it a little bit. But listen to what he says here.
If we were to turn back time, I would do it exactly the same, but there's no need to say it again. There's no need to. Listen, and another thing, we'll see how he behaves himself.
We'll see how he behaves himself. I want to reference back that ESPN interview. We'll see how he behaves himself. Look how Strickland acted in that interview. Didn't say a word, one word, basically one sentence about Dricus in that whole interview. We'll see how, dude, this man, talk about Israel Adesanya being on a leash or a collar and being unchained and the dog in the yard or whatever joke you want to make. Dricus literally has Sean Strickland on a leash. Dricus, just with literally 30 seconds of trash talk, he made Sean Strickland his bitch. And I'm not kidding at all. I'm not being hyperbolic. I truly believe this. I mean, that is crazy. We'll see how he behaves. Dricus said we're going to see how he behaves. And when he gets into the messages here in a second, it's just crazy to me. But let's listen to what he says here.
Like I said, you're not going to bully me. I'm here to be respectful. I'm a martial artist, but you're not going to bully me. So behave yourself, and we can have a civil banter back and forth. I'm 100% all for that, but you're not going to bully me. You're
not going to bully me. I love it. Dricus is standing up to the bully that is Sean Strickland. He is standing up to the bully, and he's crumpled him. He's crumpled him. He's gave him a wedge. He's given him a swirly. Now, Dricus is asked about the messages. And Dricus is such a classy guy in this respect, because he initially basically says, well, I wasn't going to talk about him. I wasn't going to expose those messages, but since he's talking about him, I will talk about him. Because again, and I'll go back to what I said earlier, the narrative Strickland was kind of trying to set was, I messaged Dricus and I told him, lay off my childhood, otherwise I will stab him. So if Dricus now doesn't talk about it, it makes Dricus look like, oh, I felt threatened, and that's why I stopped talking about it. So Dricus already realizes that, and he already gets out in front of it right here, and he exposes the messages. And I have no reason to believe that Dricus would make this up and be this detailed about it.
Yeah, so this happened the day after the altercation in the crowd.
So Strickland literally got into the altercation in the crowd. The next day, he slid into Dricus' DMs. What an embarrassment, just off the jump.
And I'm talking about, I arrived in South Africa as we were on the runway, still taxiing to where we get off.
Du Plessis isn't even back in South Africa yet, and Strickland's already begging for mercy. I'm dying.
I opened my phone and I saw a DM from Sean Strickland, and I thought it was maybe like a fan page, going to be hate mail or something like that. And I see, no, it's actually Sean Strickland's page. I do follow him, and it said, hey, so something along the lines of, listen, this is what happened. I'm sorry what I said about your coach.
I'm sorry. He messaged Dricus and said, I'm sorry about what I said about your coach. I'm sorry what I said about your coach. I mean, it even gets worse. Listen to this.
And but if there's anything that's crossing the line for you, just, and he's like, listen, I know we sell a fight and all that, but if there's anything out of line that I said that you want me to pull back, like, I'll apologize. I'll even take back what I said. I'll remove post.
He's asking Du Plessis for permission to talk trash. If there's anything you don't want me to say, sir, if there's anything you don't want me to say, if I've crossed the line at all, I'll delete the post. I'll apologize in the media. And we got Strickland talking about who's an alpha male and who's a soy boy and who's a snowflake. He's messaging Du Plessis, asking him for permission for what he's allowed to talk about and not talk about. I mean, talk about embarrassing. And it gets even worse.
And I feel kind of like this is not a great move to, but he brought it up. I would have never told the media about this. Otherwise, this happened 5 weeks ago.
He's basically saying he thought Strickland was a pussy for this. And I would have never brought this up because it's not really that great for promoting the fight to begin with. And also, it's really embarrassing of what Strickland said. But he knows Strickland's already trying to kind of mold the narrative of, I scared Dricus out of trash talking me.
I've talked about, I don't want to expose a man in that way.
He knows how embarrassing this is. He knows how bad it looks for Strickland, but everyone's glossing over all this because Strickland got into it with a reporter about homosexuality. I mean, this is crazy.
It's not my style. I was actually surprised that I saw him make it public that he did message me because I didn't want to out him on that. But
I didn't want to out him on that. I did not want to out him on that. I mean, that's crazy.
Since we're talking about it. And he, so he said, if there's anything that he shouldn't say, like he'll lay back. But if I bring up the thing with his childhood again, he said, I'll kill you and ruin your life and mine way before we step into the cage. Something like that. That's exactly his words.
So there's the part that Strickland let on. Oh, I messaged him and said, I'm going to kill him if he says this again. That's the only part he put on. Forget about the part about him apologizing and asking, Daddy Dricus, what am I allowed to say, Daddy? Now I didn't mean it like that, but you get the point.
So I'm like, okay, so this poor guy, this seems pretty serious. I feel bad for him.
The fact that Dricus is saying, I feel bad for him. I feel bad for him. That's crazy. And now he's literally laying it all out for the press conference people for the media, because Strickland's the one that brought it up. It's not like Dricus brought this out guns a-blazing.
But I just replied and said, listen, there's nothing you can say that has any effect on me. Like, go crazy. You're talking about me kissing other dudes. I have more photos.
Whoa. You're talking about me kissing other dudes? I have more photos. Pause. Big pause there.
I posted them online. I don't care.
Dricus does not give a fuck.
You think I care? I'm completely comfortable with my sexuality. Have you seen my girl? My guy. Yeah. So I don't care about that. Me kissing my coach, kissing my dad, kissing my brothers. I don't feel like people saying, oh, that's gay. So what? I don't care. I love those people. That's my family. And, it doesn't really, there's nothing you can say that can get under my skin. There's a shield here. I'm the mentally strongest fighter in the world. And I told him, you can say literally whatever you want. All is fair in love and war. But I won't say anything about your child again. Cool.
Think about how bad that is. Strickland messaged him and apologized, said, what don't you want me to talk about? What don't you want me to talk about? And Dricus said, you can talk about whatever you want, but I'll pull off. I feel bad for him. That is craziness. That is the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen. One of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen in a high-profile fight since I've been watching the sport since 2010. Strickland, the guy who's supposed to be Mr. Tough Guy, who's going to cross the line, and he's a badass. He apologized to Dricus. He asked Dricus for a handbook on what should I say and what shouldn't I say. And then he said, is there anything you don't want me to say? And Dricus said, no, that's fine. And Dricus wasn't even going to bring this up. He wasn't even going to bring this up. But Strickland's the one that brought it up because he wanted to say, yeah, I told him I was going to kill him if he talked about it again. I told him I was going to kill him. He wanted to seem like a badass, and now it's backfired on him because guess what? Dricus Du Plessis is the most mentally tough fighter on the UFC roster, in my opinion, or top 3 to be sure. Think about the way he goes out there and fights. There's no quit in him. And then the fact that he handles this situation with such grace and is like, yeah, he apologized to me and, I won't do it anymore, but I told him anything, you could talk about whatever you want. I'm comfortable with my sexuality, which seems like something Sean Strickland isn't, Sean Strickland's always throwing out homophobic slurs and talking about beating kids if they were to, turn out to be gay or whatever. And it's just awfully funny that Strickland is so hypocritical, he has to draw the line. Meanwhile, all he cares about is harassing people and talking down on people based on their perceived sexual orientation. And I'm wondering, and I tweeted this out and this got a lot of hate, did Strickland's dad beat him for being gay and now Strickland's trying to cover it up for the rest of his life? Is that what's going on here? and he's, you know, getting aroused because he's watching Dricus kiss his coach on the lips? Is that what's going on here? I think that's what might be going on here with Strickland. So not only did Dricus expose him for apologize, he slid into another fighter's DMs and apologized for him and asked him for a handbook of trash talk, of what's approved and what's not approved. And then asked him, pretty please, Dricus, don't be mean to me anymore. I mean, it's just embarrassing. It is one of the, I mean, I don't even think if Strickland KOs Dricus in the first round, which I see as highly improbable, I don't think Strickland can overcome this. I think this is Chelsea Chandler sprinting away from Norma Dumont level embarrassing, in my opinion. He begged another grown man, please don't talk trash to me. Even though I harass people's wives, I harass and discuss people who died accidentally when their family is still mourning them. I crossed the line. I encourage child abuse on a regular basis. I'm on video encouraging child abuse. But yeah, you know, lay off it for me. You know, I'm just a bully and I am a hypocrite, but just lay off of it. Dricus Du Plessis has already exposed Strickland before the fight. I think he's mentally broken Strickland before the fight. And I think Dricus Du Plessis is going to go out there and KO Sean Strickland as well. So Sean Strickland's going to have to live with this for the rest of his life because he's probably never getting a rematch with Du Plessis. And Du Plessis is, you know, one of the best trash talkers in the UFC, and he really exposed Sean Strickland at the UFC 297 presser. And I wanted to put this video together because I'm sure nobody else will. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to say hateful comments down in the comments, feel free. Feel free, because I don't care. I'm like Dricus. I'm not going to let you bully me. I don't care. So like the video, share the video if you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for watching.